Okay. Well, this thing even has a little date that appears on the screen. It says January 14th, 2007. I'm John A. Lifeite Jr. and I'm interviewing my Aunt Bess Ring. And we did an interview earlier, but this one we're going to talk about her sisters. And what were their names, Aunt Bess?
Alma and Dorothy.
Right. And Alma was born on December 29th, was it?
I think it was December 29th.
December 29th, 1917, we think. We've got to maybe verify that. It might be 1916. We're not sure. We can verify.
I think it was 17.
17. And then Dorothy, you said, was 7 years older than you, so that would make her born in 22.
Right.
And what's her birthday?
February 23rd.
February 23rd, because yours is March 23rd, 29. And as you've told me a couple of times, they're much older than you as growing up, so
right.
that creates a special relationship, doesn't it?
Yeah, we weren't very close when I was younger.
But what do you remember about them as kids?
Well,
let's say you got to be 5, 6 years old and they were around. What were they up to?
Well,
Trouble?
No, I don't ever remember. They were. Well, Alma would have been a teenager, and I don't remember that very particularly. I don't remember being with them very much. They were gone a lot.
Yeah, because, I mean, it's one thing to say Alma's 12 years older than you, but by the time you got old enough to remember her,
she was
20 and gone.
Well, they lived at home, but they were, busy and out, and we were not very close.
Well, did Alma, for example, she wasn't married until she was 30.
Right.
Right? Did she work all those years?
Yeah, she worked for Metropolitan Life Insurance Company.
And what'd she do for
the home office work.
And was that a situation where you had to take a train to work every day or something?
Oh, yes. She worked in down New York, in Manhattan.
Oh, she
23rd Street, Manhattan, the home office.
She worked in 23rd Street, Manhattan? Mm-hmm. Wow, because I used to deliver to Broadway and 27th when I was 18, I remember, the Garment District.
Oh, yeah.
She's probably just below below the Garment District.
Yeah, well, I don't remember much about Manhattan anymore.
And so she would take probably a train from Queens Village?
No, the Jamaica. The subway came to Jamaica, and we took the bus from Queens Village to Jamaica, and then we took the subway from there to New York.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with where Jamaica is, but is that up by Queens somewhere?
Yeah, it's in Queens.
It's in Queens. Jamaica, Queens, and Queens Village is just east of Queens.
Queens Village was on the very edge of the city limit.
Yeah.
Elmont and the racetrack were right next door to us.
Okay, because I remember, 20 years ago, I'd go to New York on business from Iowa, and I would see Queens Village as I came in from LaGuardia.
Yeah, it wasn't very big, though.
No, I mean, sign.
It's changed now.
Yeah, it's all kind of ghetto now.
Yeah, kind of. We were there once, many years ago, and it was so different. It wasn't like it was.
So Alma's was working in, and was Dorothy working too?
Yeah, she worked for Eberhard Faber, the pencil company.
Yeah.
In Brooklyn.
Okay, that's the same one that Uncle Arthur worked for later, right?
Yeah.
Or he sold their products, because I knew you gave me some pencils once I went to visit you in Burlington.
But she worked in the office.
In Brooklyn?
Yeah.
And she did accounting work, because that's what she did later in life.
Yeah, she was an accountant.
Okay. And so all this is going on, and then you got World War II, and like you told me in the tape we did yesterday, it didn't have much of an impact on you, but it probably did on your mother because of the shopping and things like that.
Oh, yeah. But, no, not on me, because I was a teenager.
Do you ever remember seeing, was Uncle Howard dating Aunt Dorothy for a long time before they were married? Did he show up in his uniform or anything like that?
I remember him, when he was, them dating, when he went to Lehigh University.
Oh.
And they were dating then, because she went up there, I remember, for homecoming weekend or something like that.
Yeah, because he would have got out of Lehigh about 1941, or right at the beginning of the war.
Right, and then I don't remember too much about him.
And then there's the whole war thing, and then after the war, they got married in 46. You said,
Right.
Because Dorothy was the first of the sisters to get married.
Right,
And then you said that Alma and John met at that wedding.
right.
How did Grandpa Schramm like having all of these weddings?
Well, it was kind of overwhelming for him to have everything happen so often. I know when all the grandchildren were born, his boss couldn't believe when Grandpa wanted to take more time off for another baby. He thought that it was very strange that he had so many babies so quickly.
Yeah, because I was August 49, and I was thinking last night, was Susan early 1950?
March of 1951.
51. So there was, and Steve.
About 18 months in there.
So there was that 18-month period, and then along came, Steve came in 1950.
Yeah, in December.
Yeah, and then 4 months later came Susan.
Yeah, March, and then 2 weeks after that,
Chris. Yeah, oh boy. And then Mary came in 52, I think, with March 52.
Right, that would be about right. And then
And so-
Barbara was 55, and Michael was
Yes.
59.
So for Barbara and Mike came a little bit after the curve.
Right.
Between 49 and 52, they were just coming pretty quick, weren't they? It must have been exciting for you, the three sisters, to have what amounted to 5 kids between you.
Well, it was the first time we had something in common.
Oh, that's really profound.
And then we got very close.
Okay, so you all had the kids, and it brought you all together.
Right.
Yeah, that's great, because there's that wonderful picture of you guys all holding the kids.
Yeah. But then we got separated again because we lived upstate. Art and I lived upstate New York. And your mother, they lived in Westchester. But then Dorothy went over to Germany.
Yeah, that's what you call
You know, so-
separated, isn't
yeah,
it?
then
But you still saw each other, because, I mean, I think for me it was a formative time for me. I guess.
yeah. Well, then Dorothy came back and she took care of you kids.
Yeah, it should be for anybody's kids, I guess. But I mean, we knew who Aunt Bess and Barb and Susan and Uncle Arthur were.
But then the 50s were not a good time because then your mother got cancer and Uncle
Yeah.
Howard got tuberculosis and I got polio.
Yeah, geez whiz.
And it was very hard on my mother.
Oh, and then your mother eventually passed away too.
Right. Well, she and Dad came up. And Dad took several months off from work, and they came up and took care of my children when I had the polio.
Because you said you got the polio in 55?
It was 55, 56, somewhere in there.
And how do you get that? Just it's passed on from.
Well, they didn't know. There was an epidemic in Connecticut, and but I worked in the local restaurant,
Yeah.
so they don't know.
Is it passed on in the air or physical?
Well,
contact?
they're not really sure.
Just.
But I had the non-paralytic, and I was fortunate because it didn't leave me
Yeah.
until now. Now it's
Now you're feeling it now.
yeah.
But that was a tough time, and the survivor of it all, I guess, was Henry Schramm, because he would go on to live until 79.
Yeah, he was what 92 when he died.
I don't think of him as 92. You used to talk about that. Was he 92 really?
Yeah.
So he wasn't born in 1890. He was born before that.
Yeah. Yeah, he was right up there.
Yeah, I mean, I think he may have been 89.
No, he was into his 90s.
He
I'm
was,
sure.
huh? I'll be darned. Because I have that report card where it says he got out of grade school in 1903, you know. It was his, so he might, you know, who knows. He was old anyway, because I remember talking to my dad once. My dad says, yeah, I'm getting up there. I says, I think I've even got Grandpa Schramm passed. I said, no, you don't, Dad. My dad made it to 85, and my dad was thrilled to make it to 80. You know, so, or 70. I remember celebrating 75 with him. I mean, to me, it seems pretty great. And you're going to be 78 coming up here in March.
Right.
Yeah, and you seem so vibrant to me and everything.
Well, that's
No,
good. I wish
well,
I
I
felt
mean-
vibrant to myself.
Well, I mean, you obviously talk well, think well, and all that kind of stuff. Well, tell me a little bit more about Grandpa Schramm.
Oh, it's hard. What do you want to know?
Well,
about
you know,
him?
he always seemed to me to be really good with the grandkids. He seemed to have quite an interest in his grandkids. Is that the way you felt about it?
Yeah, yeah. He really well. He did pretty good. He came out to Colorado several times. He and Adelaide, and I wished I could get around as good as he did.
But he obviously had quite a few years in enjoying them, the grandkids,
Oh yeah.
that all you daughters brought to him.
Yeah. Well, of course we lived the closest. Your kids were always further away, but
Yeah.
in Burlington he could come and visit.
But I know, you know, even when I was in the military, my dad took Chris and I over to see him. And when I graduated high school in Maine, my dad drove him up.
Yeah.
You know.
Oh yeah, he took a big interest.
I mean, he
in
was
the children.
77 years old then,
Yeah.
at least, and yet he'd get in a car to go to Maine to see his
Yeah,
you know,
no.
oldest grandchild graduate high school.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I have to think, what a kick he would get today out of James.
Oh
you know.
yeah, and all the children.
All the, you know, my kids and or Mary's and Steve. He'd get it, and you know, and certainly Merthen. He'd have great grandkids.
Yeah.
Is that great grandkids, isn't it? Yeah, and he'd get a kick out of all that. I remember taking Alexis to see him when she was first born, and he was in the apartment in Hartford. And I have movies of this, and the slides didn't come out too well in the movies, but he was holding this baby in his arms like
Yeah.
it was eggshells.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, you know, hey, you had 3 daughters. I know you know how to hold these baby girls.
Well, I don't know.
But you forget, I guess.
Yeah.
Because if I ever get, you know, presented with one, I'm holding one, it's going to be hard to hold too. But we had stopped and got Lex all changed and prettied up, you know, before we got there and everything. And he was genuinely thrilled to see great grandchild, and he had seen you know, Merthen before that.
Yeah, no, but that's
So you know, that was a really good thing. But I always, you know, my dad would say he was very tough on him from time to time, and maybe that's a normal thing. But he certainly seemed to have a lot of love for unconditional love for his grandchildren.
Oh yeah.
And,
Yeah.
and that's a really great thing. So tell me about your memories of your mom. You said she was a very hard worker and had worked in the schools and all too, huh? With PA?
Well, no, I did fundraising and things like that. It's hard to say because she died at 70, and she was so. It's hard to remember back. 'Cause
Was she good at crafts? Do you remember that?
Crafts? Well,
Crafts. Did she make like things around the
oh, well,
house?
she sewed quite a bit, but not. She wasn't.
Did she do hand sewing or sewing machine?
Sewing machine?
Because in those days, did you make a lot of clothes for your own family?
She did a lot of mending and things like that.
Mending of the clothes.
Yeah.
Did she drive a car?
No, she never drove.
Did she like talking on the phone?
Well, back then, you had a phone and you only had like something like maybe 35 phone calls a month.
There's an emergency type thing, wasn't it?
Right. You didn't have a phone like you have cell phones now and everything.
Yeah, I guess local
Yeah.
calls were part of the local service then. But
Well, you were limited.
do you remember as a kid when you made phone calls, did you have to talk to the operator to get somebody, or could you dial a number?
Oh no, you had to get a number through the operator.
You pick up the phone and you would say to the
Yeah.
operator, "I want this,"
Yeah,
and that's how it would work.
yeah, but you were very limited with how many phone calls. I mean, it was. It's hard to explain.